And whenever I start this, just to connect into Instagram, it always takes a few minutes to let me click. There we go. There we go. Now we're rolling. Always takes us a few seconds. Hello, hello, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone on Anca's side of the world, and good morning to everyone on our side of the world. We're covering the the daytime hours today. I love speaking to you, Anca. I'm so excited that we're doing this today. We really connect on so many levels. Today, we're going to talk about embodying feminine leadership, which I think is a wonderful topic. It's so important because even when we're looking at, stepping into the feminine and understanding the masculine, leadership is an important quality and it's a very powerful one that so many of us have. And, I think it's in itself also been misrepresented, or, we've been conditioned as women to take leadership roles in the same manner that men do. And I don't think, it doesn't serve us as well. It's part of the same condition of us being thrust into the masculine world and expected to perform in the same way. And it doesn't serve us well, and it isn't authentic to who we are, and disconnects us from our own feminine essence. And so, I think that's a great topic for us to cover today. And if you don't mind me just even putting this out there to begin with, I was thinking about it after we agreed on our topic. I was thinking about it, in my life, I've had people tell me that, I definitely have leadership qualities. And, I didn't really understand it. I was reflecting back on when I was the director of a children's public library for several years. And I was like, well, and how did people see that leadership? What did I actually do? Like, what was I doing that they were recognizing? And what I began to understand, like for the first time this morning even, is I was very nurturing to my staff. I allowed them the space to be who they are, and then also look to capitalize on their strengths and lift them up. And a lot of the way I worked was about collaboration. I would bring in the staff to collaborate together. I wanted to hear everyone's opinions. When I founded an author festival, the energy shot into high frequency because I was busy creating this network of connections between different publishers and authors and hosts. And that's when the energy was zinging. And it's funny because I didn't actually feel like I was doing anything other than talking to them, right? And kind of leading them to this final vision that I had, and was like, okay, how can you contribute to this vision? What can you bring to the table? And it became something very unique in itself because I think I allowed them to bring their unique talents and abilities into it. And so I was like, that was leading with feminine embodiment in its own way in a very masculine setting. So, you really inspired me this morning by bringing up that topic.
Well, as I told you before, being the moon day today, and I am a moon child, so for me, Mondays are not that focused of a day. It's more like connecting, feeling, doing my ceremonies and my practices, all about feminine, of course. It's tied into our topic. So this thing with the leadership, the feminine leadership, it's something that I've been stepping into for the past 1 year, 1.5 years, like in a conscious way. So probably that's why it's also being brought up. And in the same time, I think it's being brought up because a lot, or maybe most of the women, conscious women that are on this path are being called to step even further into their leadership as this world is being rebirthed and recreated right now, like within the midst of this ascension, evolution, and anchoring a new earth, a new paradigm. So I see around me, as I am working with women for a lot of years, like more than ever, maybe the past year, something like that, this like calling and a bit of like pushing from the universe, like, come on, do your work, do your thing, do whatever you need to do so that you can step up and rise and shine into your feminine, opposite to the masculine. And I'm going to bring the masculine in as well at one point. But for the moment, like, we were taught, educated, even programmed for like centuries, it's not a recent thing, to rely on our thinking, to rely on our logic, to rely always on like making the plan, analysis, goals, checking the boxes, reaching that, function, being someone. And this comes with a lot of costs, as it is a lot of competition.
That's the word I was gonna. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot of competition. I've been working in a multinational environment for some years, and when you're talking, it came to me like some images for me growing up when I was almost always the informal leader. Like I never cared for the leadership, like the how it's supposed to be.
Right.
And I remember, like, since I was like in the 5th or 6th grade, that girls would come to me to ask me various questions, usually about taboo subjects, as this is also one of my threads in my mission. And I was like kind of surprised, like, why do you ask me? It's not like I'm knowing more or I'm better than you, or I hold some secrets to this universe. But it was just probably, now looking back, also in the working field when I was an employee still, it's what you said. I was the one that was not judging, receiving them as they were. Maybe they felt like safe to come to me to talk to me because they didn't feel like I was always pushing them, criticizing them, wanting them to perform a lot, not caring about how they felt. I was not that person. And then I remember, like, in another job that I was in, and I was working human resources, I cared so much about the team, about the people there, and I always wanted to find ways to like nurture everyone and like capitalize on their strengths and their way of being. And I wanted to create an environment that was like safe and homey in a way, so that they can be seen and held as human beings first. I felt it always that is too dry in a way, void of soul. All of this, like, being employed, being whatever leader or employee, or this entire field. And I remember once they had a vote for who to be the team leader, and I told them, like, I don't care about this function. I don't care to be a team leader in this form, because I don't want to be in this. It's almost like the word that comes up now is like, I don't want to be involved in this obeying industry, enslavement industry. Now that this is what comes up, because I always was like a rebel at my core, and I always felt like people here don't give a rat's ass about how you feel, about you being a woman or not, about you being a human being first. They only care about ROIs and reports and money and all of that, And that was a pain point for me. And one of the reasons why I quit being in that field at all, and went on this path. And you know what? It is tough.
For sure.
It is tough to step into your leadership as a woman nowadays.
Yeah.
As, first of all, we are so imprinted that it's in our nature to be almost like men, like leading like men. We don't know anything else. We're just learning.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd say it's in our nature, though. I think it's pushed. We've been programmed to think that it's not our nature to be as that this is how we should be, and if we're not, then we can't meet those standards.
Yeah,
right.
So deeply ingrained because of the programming. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That women don't even know or think that there is another way.
Yeah.
And they're all like either hiding away, like I did for the first time, first part of my life. Like I didn't care to lead in any way. And then when I started becoming aware, like I have leadership qualities, everybody keeps telling me, like, you're such a natural leader. You need to like take more space. You need to like, show up more, stuff like that. And the universe just like slapped me in the face for the last year so that I could really, really do my inner work with that scared little inner child that didn't want to take space because she was not feeling safe to take space. Because every time when I wanted to take space as a little kid, I was shut down. My wings are cut.
Yeah.
I was being, and how? Exactly in those feminine traits.
Right.
Exactly for the feminine traits. Don't
Right.
be
So
so
those were
much.
not safe traits to step into then.
Exactly. And now I see women, like the women I work with, I talk to about this. The main threat is I'm so afraid of my power. This is one.
Yeah.
And second is I associate feminine or being in my feminine essence with weakness,
Right.
stupidity, being unable.
Yeah.
So I need to be that strong, hyper independent,
Yeah.
achieving, super achieving, doing it all, which is the masculine way.
That's right.
When I invite women to the simple, steps to take, like relax more. It seems simple, but for a woman who
So
is so in her head and so like pushing herself all the time and her nervous system is so overworked all the time, it seems simple, but it's not. Like, relax. This is where we can start reconnected to this feminine essence and take a step back, introduce more relaxing into your body, coming back into your body more, connecting with the earth more. These are like simple
Well,
little
but
things.
don't forget too, our nervous systems are even being asked to match those that the masculine, because
Yeah,
even biologically, right? The male nervous system regenerates itself it's on a 24-hour cycle with testosterone. For women, we're on a 28-day
yeah.
cycle of regeneration, right? And that's why we experience the ebbs and flows of
I was going to
energy
mention, yeah,
and mood and all of that through the month. So they can have a very a day full of exertion, sleep, right? And the next day
and then
wake
again,
up recharged. Whereas for us, that, that my night's sleep is not the recharge that we need. It's actually the rest. It's the slowdown, it's the stillness and the regularity of that opportunity to balance busy or active with rest that keeps our nervous systems healthy and able to continue. And that's why so many women end up completely burnt out, because especially when we're, creating families and we're trying to work and we're working on a masculine schedule with that level of competition and drive, that we're trying to match, and still maintaining all the responsibilities. Like, that feminism didn't absolve women of any of these responsibilities of the home and family. It just piled on added stuff to us. So that's, women are exhausted by the time most of us get to our 40s, me included. We're completely burnt out. Our adrenal systems are finished. Our nervous systems are like completely,
yeah,
vibrating, and not in a good way, right?
mhm,
From overstimulation.
yeah,
And then rest becomes something to feel guilty about. And
yeah,
that's another element, right? That, like, it's
yes,
not just about relaxing or resting. It's giving yourself permission
permission,
to
yes,
rest without that, the mind still running of, I've got the laundry or the report I still have to do, or
yeah,
I'm, really not living up to my responsibilities. If I take that time for myself, and it's really the opposite, but it's so hard to rewire to understand that rest is part of our job in a way, right? That is part of our
it's
feminine.
essential. It's
It's essential to keep
essential.
us going and to help us build and generate the energy that is so beautiful and natural to us to continue going, right? And so there's
Yeah.
so many layers that are involved in being able to embrace feminine qualities and traits, into leadership. There's an unraveling almost that needs to happen at a certain point too.
And this thing with like rest and even the good night's sleep, a lot of women do not have that anymore because of over
Yeah.
over everything, you
Yep.
know. um so maybe prioritizing, I have this saying, and it's not just a saying, I also read it somewhere, that my, let's say, duty or responsibility as a woman is how I feel. how I feel. So if I start to really think about it first, really think about like how I feel. I know there's a lot of guilt coming in. I know there's a lot of stuff like I know, but let's like take a little break now. And how do I mostly feel during the day, during like my life?
Yeah.
Do I notice something here? Do I want to change this?
Yeah.
So the first step is maybe starting to prioritize, or maybe even in the top three, put the rest, even if it's the good night's sleep that I'm starting to work with so I can actually rest. And then maybe introduce some kind of rest during the day, even if it's a 5-minute break where you just like lie down and breathe and that's it.
Yeah.
Actually, lying down on the floor resets the nervous system and helps a lot with this calming down. And also, when you're overworked and the nervous system is overworked as well, your adrenal glands, your endocrine system, your hormonal system is all messed up.
Absolutely.
This is another story about how we go into burning out because we start to feel ill and have all of these issues, health issues, because we do not prioritize that. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And then it's a perpetual cycle.
It's a cycle.
It's very hard. And the thing that, is so, key about what you said about thinking about how you feel is because very often our days we're so busy and overwhelmed. We don't get to even know how we're feeling because we're so immersed in the schedule and the day and the family and the house and work and balancing it all that there's no opportunity to tap into and touch base with yourself to even understand how you feel because
and that's living based on the exterior, letting the exterior run you instead of you run yourself from within. If you want to step into the feminine leadership and be and feel like you're rested, whole, at peace, nurtured, nourished, etc., then this is one of the first layers, the ones that we're talking right now.
That's right.
About,
That's right. It's almost the first thing to start.
Yeah. It's one of the first things, talking with women that are overworked, overstimulated, overthinking. And then now I see this image with the other woman that she is maybe not that overworked and not that overstimulated, but she is passive and very, very afraid and very like the flower on the wall. She's never taking the lead. She's never speaking her truth. She's never stepping up. She's never thinking that she's worthy or feeling that she's worthy of anything. So that's maybe another type of woman that could resonate with all of this.
Yeah.
That she has a lot of gifts. She has a lot of like passions and dreams, but they're all like withheld and they're all like being suppressed because she feels she's not worthy, because she feels like no one is going to give her attention, that what she has to say is not important and stuff like that.
It also ties into sometimes that fear of being seen. That if you do see, right, like all of that, it wraps into.
That's the thing that is like in both types, in all women, the fear of being seen in my power as a woman, because we're not afraid, mostly, we're not afraid of being seen in our power as men, as the way we're programmed, let's say. Yeah, the 9 to 5, all we know. We're not afraid of that. Why? Because that is the normal, because that means we fit in. That means that we are accepted. We're even given prizes by the mainstream.
It's what's recognized. Yeah, that's the value.
It's validated, that exhaustion cycle that we go through every day, that not listening to ourselves, that disconnection from our rhythm, biological rhythm, menstrual cycle, all of that is being validated, so of course we keep on that and doing that, and when it comes to, okay, but how is it? How is it to be in my feminine power? What's that? What are you talking about?
That's right. Oh yeah, it's a mystery to so many of us.
My body.
Yeah. And when you talk about collaboration, I think that's it's a next layer after we can master rest for ourselves, right? And tapping into how we feel. Because
I would put connecting to our intuition in between, connecting to our intuition and connecting to our, everybody takes it how it resonates with their heart soul, let's say. So connecting with the voice and guidance within, because it might be hard to collaborate if there's a lot of wounding there and you don't even,
Yeah. So what I was going to say was collaboration, not only in a work sense, because that is a feminine leadership where we're bringing people together, but when it comes to women needing women and the support that we get from each other, that's kind of, and I agree, because sometimes we can do a lot of that on our own, learning to connect into our intuition. But if we don't have the right support surrounding us or nurture to give us the encouragement to continue leaning into that, or the encouragement of like, you're on point with that, or support for following our own intuition, it's hard to do that, a lot of that on your own too. So yes, definitely learning to listen to ourselves, and that comes after rest. Absolutely. Because it's only in that quiet that you can start to hear that inner voice. And then with the support of other women around you, you can continue to develop and lean into it.
And this is another story in another layer that has its own complexities, its own trauma, its own fears, its own, because it's the sister wound that we know about. That because we're taught to be in competition with one another.
That's what I was going to say. It has to be the right support group.
Exactly. And when you are surrounded by women that you are competing with, women that, you keep a friendship just for the sake of it, or for the benefits, or for the image, and you don't know how to really soften in your body, to really soften in your heart, to really, and this is another layer, embrace your vulnerability and your emotions. Such an essential one for a woman, because I said women are about how I feel. So starting to become aware of your feelings, and become aware of your feelings that you don't want to feel mostly, and become aware of the vulnerable side of you when, for example, you need help, but you cannot ask for help because I would be weak. What would she think? All of that, So when you're in that area, maybe a step to take would be, if there is a best friend, sometimes there's not, because of what I said before, like we keep relationships in a surface level, and we do not vulnerably create intimacy and connection with one another. And this is something to be practiced and worked through as well. For me as well.
And as a filter too, right? If you can recognize the different kinds of friendships and seek out the like-minded women who can nurture you, who will be compassionate to you, who will see you and lift you up, and remember, that twist, between, it's not competition with women. There's room for all of us at the table. With women, we're in collaboration and not in competition. We have to lift each other up, because we can all succeed. We can all flourish. We can all rise together. And it's not only one of us can rise, over the other, which is a very masculine structure, but it's even learning and recognizing it and reframing that understanding of those friendships. And maybe it might mean sometimes recognizing, like you said, if there's certain friends that, are in competition with you, or are only around, on a surface level for whatever benefits, to recognize, well, then maybe those ties, or those energetic ties, need to be severed or removed or further distanced from you. I'm not advising like cut everybody out of your life. Recognize how close, I always tell my kids, like, friends are like a solar system. The closest ones are the ones that you're the sun, and whoever are the most trustworthy and compassionate and supportive are the first 2 or 3 planets, Mercury, Venus, and Earth. And then as we go and you learn about a person, you can still keep them in your world, but keep them at further orbits, so that that you have them in a different place in your life. And it's not out of any kind of malice. It's more out of just an understanding of who gets to be who gets to that soft part of you, who gets to that vulnerable, authentic you, and who has earned it and deserves it and values it also. right? So
And we come back to prioritizing yourself. And
that's
we
right.
come back at like starting to become very aware of yourself, what you think, what
Yes.
you feel, what you need, what's actually going on in your life with yourself, in your relationships.
Yeah,
Without this, you cannot take any other steps, because you need to like
absolutely.
see clearly where you're at and then start to build on that, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and sometimes you have to go through it back and forth,
yeah,
right? You know,
of
you
course,
start the first step and you do the second one, and okay, you need to go
of
back to
course,
the first and
of course.
recalibrate and recenter, and then okay, now you can venture out again and take another two
Of
steps
course,
maybe, and then come
of
back. So,
course. Like from my own example, I've been in this field for like more than 10 years now, and I would say that I have always been different and a
mm,
disruptor and a leader, because like 10 years ago, what I was doing was very new. No one was doing that. No one was really understanding that. But I was operating a lot now that I went through this and I could, take a look back and see what was going
mm,
on. I was operating a lot from my inner child that was very wounded. And
mm,
without knowing it, unconsciously, I was like screaming for attention.
mm,
I was doing things from not the right reasons, let's say. Of course, it was a process that helped me a lot to step into my power, sure. It's just an observation that I'm making that is very important, because without doing this work with the inner child, we may be thinking we're in our feminine leadership, but we're actually in the wounded feminine leadership,
right.
where we are. For example, I was posting because I was feeling alone and I wanted attention, or I
Mm,
was doing a workshop or something because I wanted people to see me. I wanted the
mm,
money. I wanted the clients. I needed that attention and that affection. I was feeling always like in competition when I looked around let's say the social networks and seeing other women doing stuff, like, oh my God, why am I not doing that? Like,
yeah.
punishing myself, criticizing myself, pushing myself. That is the wounded part of us, that, okay, I might be a leader, but I'm not this. And I'm not saying I'm done and I'm the perfectly illuminated whatever. It's a
We're
journey.
all always healing. Yeah,
It's always room to, embody more, come into more depth, into more
that's right.
wisdom. um, Now what I see is that, and notice, is that, first of all, I'm very aware of myself at
Mm,
all times. I am not giving a F on whatever else someone else is doing online. I mean, I don't even follow that many people anymore. I don't know what's going on. I don't care what's going on
yeah.
anymore. I'm always, when I catch myself being triggered, entering into some comparison or lack mentality, or punishing myself or criticizing myself, I always come back, return within. I always come back to my heart. I always come back to my
Mm,
breathing. I always take space, slow down,
yeah.
breathe in, do my inner work with that, and then decide, and then step up, so that slowly, gradually, I can, really embody this centered, sturdy, if I can say it. I was compared by one client of mine, like, you are like Mother Earth. You're like
Mm,
powerful,
yeah,
big,
you have that energy,
open,
definitely. Yeah.
warm, like that. But that didn't happen until I could see myself, until
Mm,
I could talk to my little inner girl every single day, nourish that relationship with her, and tell her, you are worthy. You
mm,
can take more space. Do that. You're allowed to do that. You're not in danger anymore. You are safe. And like in brackets, the witch wound has a lot to do with the being seen part here,
mm,
not the subject of today, just a note there. And while I was doing this with my inner child, a lot of things from my childhood started to
mm,
appear, like where my voice was stifled. I was crying a lot and I was told to not cry. Whatever, triggers and situations. And I felt unseen, unworthy, unimportant, incapable, all of those feelings that most of us have deep down,
absolutely.
you know? So once I started like nourishing that relationship inside of me and taking steps outwardly as well, because it's a combination, as you said, sometimes I'm more inward, sometimes I combine it, sometimes I'm more outward. It depends. Even if I was afraid, for example, when I first started allowing my light language to come through or my drumming to be a thing, I was afraid to publish
Mm,
about that or with that or dancing around the house or anywhere. I was afraid.
yeah.
It was the little inner child that was like, oh my God, how do you look? People will think, da, 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 da,
Mm,
what is that? And then I still did it as I was holding my little girl, you know, within and telling her, you are worthy. You
mm,
are important. You have a message to deliver that is worthy to be heard and seen.
yeah. And
And
you're allowed to experience
we
joy,
are
right?
allowed to experience pleasure and joy and ease. And I want to hear you and I want to see you and I want to be there for you and I want to support you. And this was another big click, that happened for me. I am the one that for the first time in my life, I have my back. I don't
Mm,
wait for someone else to have my back. I
right.
wait for someone else to make me happy. I have my own back, and then something happened. It's like I've risen in a way,
Yeah.
like Phoenix,
And
right?
right? Yeah. And that gives us the confidence, right? When we're women who can tap into that and heal that, it gives us the confidence to be seen and to have confidence in our own wisdom, right? Into the intuition that tells us what
Yes,
needs to be done
yes,
and how to do it.
yes,
Instead of second guessing and questioning, we
yes.
can lead with a confident energy that
I
inspires others
trust
around
myself.
us.
I
That's
I
right.
have this note on my mirror, and it's there for like half a year, and I'm gonna leave it there for a long time. That says, I deeply and completely trust myself.
That's right. Yeah.
Because when I realized I actually do not trust myself at all, this was the
Mm,
next step. And I didn't trust myself because I was never entrusted. I was never taught how to
mm,
trust myself because I was never let to be myself in all ways.
right.
I was never given permission. I had to do what they said I needed to do, you
Yeah.
know? So there's so many women that always like look outwardly and wait for someone to tell them what to do and how to do it,
Mm,
when actually it's about reconnecting with that inner wisdom. And you know it's the easier part is reconnecting with that, and the toughest part is trusting and validating what that is telling you,
that, oh, absolutely. Right.
because
And to
you're
do it the
always
way, right.
crazy or you're not right or
That's right, and not to do it because it's so hard because we've been told to do it the masculine way,
yeah,
which it's not that the masculine way is wrong, and that's the other thing I wanna be like
yes,
so clear when we talk about all of this. It's not wrong, it's just not authentic to how women need to operate
yes,
and move through the world, right? The
yes,
masculine has its value because look at what the masculine has done in the world. They've done like the infrastructure and the world that has been created has been on the
yes,
backs of men and their planning and their drive. Like that's the drive to push
good
to
point, yeah,
build, right? For the most part, right? So
yeah,
but for us, because that's been the structure around us, and then the modern world has told us, well, you can do all of that just the same, if not better. And who even needs the masculine in here? We're going to
oh
replace the
god, yeah,
masculine.
yeah,
That has put even more pressure on us to be that masculine role or to channel that masculine energy and discard and disconnect from the feminine, by displacing the masculine. And it's all kind of coming to me as I'm talking about, like, by displacing the masculine in the modern world, we've also disregarded the feminine at the same time. We've just forced the two sexes into opposite roles and spaces, not even opposite, because one's completely pushed out and one is stepping into a space that isn't authentic. And so
mhm,
we're doing a disservice to both sides, I think, where women
yeah,
can be the hubs that even collaborate and create that support for men to continue with their building and their work, and at the same time create the feminine spaces that support and complement with creativity and nurture and collaboration and
And
support.
vulnerability that
That's right.
brings power, and taking ownership of what I feel, of what I need, of what I think, validating that, being my own good friend. And I also want to add, like, there's also, I don't want people to understand like being in the feminine is just being in the feminine, because you cannot operate without masculine energy as well.
Right, because the masculine is
We
action.
are talking about feminine leadership because that is our nature. That is how we are going to feel whole and healthy and nourished and good with ourselves. But that doesn't mean that we don't need our inner masculine energy. That's another story to work through, because it's also complicated back here. But in the same time, if, for example, you want to build something, or even when you wake up and you take your kids to the kindergarten, you're doing a masculine action. You need to plan your week. You're doing a masculine action. You need to think about the future because you want to build something for that's masculine action.
Yes.
Like, all of the things that you're doing, it is a masculine energy, but it's a difference between always being and working and acting from the masculine energy,
Right.
and bringing in the masculine energy while you are anchored in your feminine.
That's absolute 100% right. I fully agree with you on that. And then while you're doing that, the thing about the feminine, you say like, I'm safe, I'm validated. This is how I feel. When we can feel safe in that, then we can pass that on and enable and others to be seen, to be supported, use that to serve others and lift them up and create the foundations for the feminine support and the feminine community and collaboration.
As we do all we do from the sense of mission, let's say, it's not the masculine mission, but it's like more, how I want to express it, it's like more divine mother, divine father, guide me, work through me. And I trust that, and I flow with that, and I surrender, instead of always being in my mind thinking of the next thing I want to do, the next thing I want to plan, the next thing that needs to be done because XYZ. I am always coming inwards, and when I don't know what to do, when I'm at threshold, when I want to create something new, where I feel I want to birth something new, I want to birth something new, I come back into myself and I give it a rest and I give it time. This is something we're not used to do. Give it
time and space.
Grow,
absolutely.
Receive all the pieces of the puzzle, and maybe, meanwhile taking steps and doing things, but not from here. From here and from the womb space, from the within, from, great wisdom within, great, mother, father, whatever, whoever, they believe in and how they connect. Work through me, flow through me, show me the way, guide me. I trust you. I trust life. I trust my soul. I trust this path. I want to listen so I can manifest it.
Right. And then what comes through, just by virtue of you bringing it forward with that energy and that confidence and safety, like security in yourself, is that is the leadership. That is how you lead. You end up naturally and energetically drawing the people to you that you can then serve and collaborate with, or create with, or support.
Yes. And that is also like the feminine leadership, I think, has this quality that is more about attracting, magnetizing, feeling one another. Like, for example, when I want to maybe go to a new mentor or a new course or whatever, for me, what's most important is how that feels.
Of course.
Usually the person that leads that space, or the, that offers the thing, how that feels for me. I don't care as much about the details, the structure, the bullet points, I don't even read through all of that. For me, it's important how I connect beyond the mental, beyond the words, beyond the image they project. And if that feels aligned and integrity and safe and, embodied, and what I am looking for, then it's a yes. But if it's a little mismatch, it's only words, it's only from here, it's only like giving me a technique or words, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the experience. I'm interested in the feeling. I'm interested in going deep. This is a feminine quality. I'm interested, into this connection and this sparkling and spark that can happen from within that I can bring without.
If you have to rationalize it too much,
Exactly.
you already know that it's not aligned.
Exactly.
Your masculine mind is trying, that masculine element is trying to convince yourself or rationalize why you should do it when you're not connecting in with the alignment for yourself.
And that's what I'm also paying attention to. Like, okay, you're thinking it through too much. So either that's a no, or just let's sit with it and see if usually, everybody I think had this moment or many moments in their life where they just knew.
Yep.
You just know. I had women coming into my containers and they had no idea why they were there. They had no idea what they were coming to. They just, like, some of them were like, I'm coming because it's you. I don't even care. Or I came here because I just felt the impulse. And that's it. I don't care. That is the feminine leadership. That is the strong wisdom inside of us that is telling us this is now for you, or go this way, or take this path. And it is scary.
Yes. Yes, it is
scary because it collapses all of that old mind structure, all of that ego structure, all of that how you were used to. So that's why stepping into feminine leadership, I get chills again all my body, is about descending, becoming friends with your own shadows, becoming friends with the voids in your life, becoming friends with, like, shedding skins and letting yourself die and letting yourself risk. And you get rebirthed, and you get rebirthed, and you get rebirthed, like, I don't know, every year, every 2 years, every 5 years.
Even vulnerability is a risk, right? And I was listening to Jordan Peterson podcast this morning, and one thing he said really stood out to me, where he was talking about fear, and he's, there is fear. You can either use it as it can be your obstacle, and fear, if it's in front of you and you allow it to stay in front of you, it's the obstacle. It will stop you from where you're supposed to go. But fear can be behind you as your motivator, pushing you forward, right? Like, fear is hard, fear will always be there. It's a matter of whether you will,
with it,
right? What you allow it to do to you, or whether you take control of it and allow it to be, if you allow it to be the motivator or the obstacle.
And that means that you are already aware enough that you are not that fear, that the fear is an emotion that comes from within. It's a trigger. It's something going on there. She appears, the fear, but you're not identified with it. It's not that when you go on this journey, you become this illuminated, always peaceful, always radiant, always happy, giddy woman. It's just that you are so aware that that specific emotion or moment or context that triggers you, it's something temporarily rising. You are connected to something bigger than that, and that is where confidence, centering in your heart, that's the practice that you need to have, so that you can notice the fear, and, as you said, not letting it drive you, stop you, overwhelm you, but you can notice it and say, okay, I feel this fear. Like a couple of days ago when I posted, I don't know what video, like I feel that anxiety rising up. Oh my God, I'm just going to do it anyways, because I know it's not a question. I know that this is the next step I need to take.
That's right.
And there's things in our lives that we cannot heal or surpass, but going through that fear, doing it anyway with that fear.
Yeah, that's right.
Jump.
That's it. Jump, leap, and
everything will,
and the other side will appear, right?
Or the universe will show the steps while you're stepping.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so
Because
many beautiful
also,
quotes around that. Yeah.
yeah, because also what I teach my the women that come and work with me is one of the first things, start to become friends with the unknown, because the divine feminine is such a mystery.
Mm.
When you start allowing yourself to not know and still go on,
Mm. That's
when you when
yeah.
you start to work with that control, which is hiding a lot of fear, then everything is more filled with life
Mm.
in a way.
And that's also, when you start to work with the control that's filled with fear, that's often why we step into such a masculine space of
Yes.
control.
Yes.
Because we are afraid. And so we're
Yeah.
afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of things being out of our control. We're afraid of vulnerability, right? And so the masculine takes over as a protective measure, and it's so encouraged anyways. It's an easy step to take on, to then micromanage and control as much as possible, so that you keep the fear at bay, but all you're really doing is you're maintaining the fear, because that's not a good way to have fear motivate you, is to let it control you.
Yes.
It's, the way to have fear motivate you in a positive way is to keep you driving and, like you say, focused on what you need to do anyways.
I'm such a fan of part work, and I'm saying this because I want to invite all of the ones that are listening or will listen. And by the way, if you're listening afterwards, you can leave in comments #replay so that we can
Mm,
see all the beautiful yous out there that are connecting to
yes.
our transmission, our medicine, our codes today. So I'm inviting, like, for example, what if I would close my eyes and I would go into my heart or within and be curious about meeting this controlling
Mm,
part of me, this dominating part of me, this very masculine part of me, or even there's just a controlling part of me that wants to have the control, to know everything, to plan everything, to be in control all the time. You know, what if I go in there and just be curious? How do you look like?
mm,
How are you dressed? How are you sitting? What's your vibe? What's your eyes telling me? Maybe, why are you here? And then you can start a dialogue that comes from presence,
mm,
be in presence with that part of you, and be curious. Why are you here?
yeah,
What are you doing for me?
that's
Because
right. What
all
are
of
you?
the parts, all of the parts inside of us, the domineering, the scared one, the sad one, whatever parts, the controlling one, the masculine one, are there, as you said, as a protection. They serve us until we become aware, we surpass that level, we want to go into the next level, we become aware
Mhm.
of that, and then we can meet them, thank them for the gift they bring us. And you'll
Yes.
see how that part transforms and softens, and it's finally being seen and accepted for who they are. And then the alchemy starts to happen within you. It's a very organic process. And then you feel less controlling out of the sudden the
Right.
next weeks or months.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
feel
that's an invitation for any part of you, because we don't want to create like an inner war. We don't want to create like an inner split. We don't want to create more fight, because we're fighting enough.
yeah.
And that's why the world it is how it is right now. That's why we see so many wars outside of us, partly because we are fighting so much with our feminine, with our
Yeah.
power, with our masculine. We fight with everything, you know?
Yeah.
And it's such a huge invitation and risk that the universe extends to us during these times. Step up,
Yes.
dare to be in your feminine, dare to lead with your heart, with your emotion, with your vulnerability, with how you feel, with your wisdom that is a wisdom gathered for centuries, for lifetimes.
Yeah.
Dare to trust yourself and trust the guidance of your soul. And I know sometimes it's like, but oh my God, that means that I encounter this a lot of times. That means that I'm going to lose everything. That means that I'm going to. One, you don't know. You're just making scenarios.
Fear of the unknown.
The fear. And second, it might mean that some people go away. It might mean that you maybe need to move. You know,
And it might mean new people will come your way.
it might mean all of this actually new opportunities for you to feel better, for you to go to your next level. Are you like ready for like, I am taking that risk because I deserve to step up to feel better? Or am I still gonna choose the old ways just because I'm afraid of losing something that never was what I needed anyways, was not supportive anyways?
I think that's such a beautiful point. We've been talking for almost an hour. I think that's a beautiful place to leave our friends who are watching, because there's so much to think about. And the last few things that you've said are just, they're so profound that let's leave them with thinking about that. I think, like it's so deep and there's so much there, and your wisdom and leadership is just so powerful. So I could listen to you all day. You're wonderful, Anca. I love you so much. Thank you for doing this with me today. You said you have a new program coming, the Bold Woman. So why don't you talk about that just briefly, and then we'll talk about mine, and
I'm still in the works, so I'm not launching
Okay.
anything right now. I'm
Okay.
still working on a group thing that I'm gonna launch, so I'm gonna leave it like a surprise. And I feel as I really feel that I'm called to bring a group container for the women that are ready to step into their boldness, to their liberated selves. My thing is whole woman, or let's say my big one is whole woman, which means bold and free and liberated and daring, and telling your truth and allowing all the parts of you to shine through, and like break these chains of conditioning and programming that tell you how you should be, how you should do, how you should everything, and be you, be that. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I've got a program coming up at the end of September that's ready for pre-registration with Cassandra Finch that we're doing.
Oh, great.
The Newsian Queens, all about the divine feminine and masculine. So you'll be seeing more about that.
Love
you can
you
find both of us on Instagram, Facebook. You've got YouTube rolling right now. And please reach out, and, happy that you joined us for today.
And leave us questions if you have questions in the comments.
Yes, always. Absolutely.
We're going to revisit, and if there's any questions about anything we talked today here, we're happy to answer your questions. If you feel called, come into our DMs, into our private messages, dare to speak up, dare to share, and to ask if there's anything to share or ask. Because as Talya said before, we are here to start collaborating more.
Yes.
Share more, soften our hearts more, be more vulnerable with each other, as we are actually all going through the same things.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're catching it on replay, #replay in the comments. Yeah, we'll say hi. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you, everyone.